From the island of Isla Nublar, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two film critics 65 million years in the making, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Oh, Corey, whose pronunciation did you mutilate?
That Old Dinosaur was brought to you by Carl Naras.
There we go. Thank you, Corey. Isla Nublar. Not even going to go there. All right, Mark.
Yes, sir. What happened? What did I do? I'm innocent.
Nothing.
As usual, I did nothing. Is that what you're saying?
Know, absolutely. Women's World Cup's going on. I'm not watching a lot of movies. That's why we got a lot of TV this week.
TV. Big fan of TV.
Because I can throw this stuff on in the background between games. That's why.
Well, so what should we talk about? Which long forgotten?
You know what?
Show should we talk about first?
The Wire.
The Wire.
The Wire. Complete series on Blu-ray. We're just jumping right in this week.
Why not?
No news. No nothing else. We got a lot of stuff to cover. We're just going to jump right in.
Okay. Refreshing.
It's good tap water.
I put ice in it.
You can taste the street.
You can taste the Dickens.
The complete HBO original series, The Wire. Many people consider this the greatest piece of television ever. I don't think I'd go that far, but it's awfully damn good. And it is particularly interesting because you know what city this took place in, Mark?
Oh, it took place in Baltimore.
It did indeed. And when The Wire, if you watch this and just based on what has happened in Baltimore in this year, you just kind of go, wow, this show is prophetic. If people had watched the show more, maybe Baltimore wouldn't be in the condition it's in. It's kind of a cautionary prophetic tale. It really is. Corruption and all the problems and the racial issues and everything that everybody's been talking about in Baltimore, honestly, it was all completely already prefigured in The Wire. The Wire is a great show. Again, I don't know that I would go so far as to say it's the best piece of television ever, but 20 discs on Blu-ray, beautifully transferred Blu-ray with fantastic DTS audio, really, and ultraviolet, by the way, so you can throw this on your phone, on your iPad. You can bring it along to your deposition, and you can show them pieces. You can bring The Wire with you everywhere, all the time, anywhere. And on the plane, if you want to do that. It's kind of depressing, but it's a pretty great show. Really, really good. 22 audio commentaries featuring cast and crew. 3 prequels on it, looking at things leading into the narrative of The Wire. And then they have, the Paley Center does a lot of really interesting stuff with respect to media and, panels and discussions about media and all of this. The Paley Center did a thing, I think we mentioned one, there's one on the WKRP set where they brought everybody back together again from WKRP. Wonderful, wonderful little reminiscing there. They also did a Wire reunion, and that's not quite so, it's, a happy event, but obviously it's a more serious and sobering show, so that's really cool. But yeah, all 60 episodes on 20 discs, fantastic. So about a third of the episodes actually have audio commentaries. Just can't say enough. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen The Wire, you need to see The Wire, because The Wire is kind of sort of life-changing, especially now.
That is true. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have The Odd Couple. The Odd Couple is finally out on DVD. This is the complete series. We're talking, ladies and gentlemen, 114 episodes of the show that starred Jack Klugman and Tony Randall.
They're doing a new one, aren't they?
Based on the movie, based on the play.
They're doing a third incarnation.
They are,
of The Odd
but
Couple.
it just seems like they just took the name. It doesn't have that inspiration to it. It just feels
Isn't there like a twist to the new one? Like one of them's gay or something? I don't know. There's some angle. Because they did this previously. There was a second Odd Couple in the 80s. They did another Odd Couple where they were black.
Well, it's got.
You remember that one with DeMont
yes.
Wilson right after he did Sanford and Son? They did like a black Odd Couple, which I don't know why that would make it fresh.
Lame. But it does star Matthew Perry as Oscar.
Oh, this new one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's gonna be bad.
Whatever.
It's on CBS. Anyway, or it is on CBS. Anyway, so Odd Couple, but that Odd Couple ran in the 70s, from 1970 to 1975. It was based on the movie, which is based on the Broadway play. Very, very funny stuff. Of course, it has that famous, iconic theme song written by Neil Hefti, who also wrote the theme to
Batman.
Doodle, 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 Doodle. Anyway, CBS didn't totally shank this. They did wind up with a couple special features, including an audio intro by Gary Marshall, who looks very old now. Unfortunately, it's very sad. And audio commentaries on select episodes. There is a gag reel. There's a couple more things, too. So CBS definitely made this the last word on The Odd Couple, although a Blu-ray release would have been better. Just putting it out there. Anyway, if you love The Odd Couple, or if your parents love The Odd Couple, which is more like it, you can go for that. Now, we also have, this is a big one, boy. I'm surprised this isn't like a holiday season release. The complete series of Laverne and Shirley.
Totally.
This is 167 episodes.
I think they're afraid of a glut at holiday time, because there are already an enormous amount of complete season box sets that are scheduled for the holiday season, and a lot of them are Blu-rays. So and the stuff that's coming down the pipeline for the holidays is pretty intimidating. So I think they were like, well, we're not going to do Laverne and Shirley on Blu-ray yet, so let's do a complete thing and see if we can't get a little summer heat on it.
Now, this one was produced by Gary Marshall, just like The Odd Couple.
Yep.
Gary Marshall was Hassan Pfeffer Incorporated. Anyway, Laverne and Shirley was one of the many, many spin-offs. Happy Days.
Oh, more spin-offs surrounding Happy Days. I mean, actually, the correct question is, what television series produced the most spin-offs? It's where its lineage just spawned, and it's actually Love American Style, because Happy Days is a spin-off from Love American
That's
Style.
right.
As is Wait Till Your Father Gets Home.
But then again, you could also say
and then from Happy Days, and then everything that Happy Days spawned, it just adds to it.
But Love American Style is a weird way, a bit of a spin-off of Divorce Italian Style.
Kinda, sorta, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sort of. And then, of course, All in the Family had a million spin-offs as well.
Yes, it did. Anyway, I love Laverne and Shirley. This is, of course, on DVD. Very nice-looking box set. 8 seasons. Love it. Oh, man. 178 episodes. Can't tell you. Special features, they're not amazing, but they're totally worth it. They're still both around, Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams. And there you go.
I just used to laugh my head off at Lenny and Squiggy every week. That's why I watched the show. I didn't watch for Laverne and Shirley. I watched it basically just to watch Lenny and Squiggy make an entrance and go, hello.
No, you watched
David
it.
Lander, man, it was the best.
You watched it for Frank DeFazio, Laverne's father, who ran the pizza place. And Carmine. Remember Carmine? Carmine, who was the what? Remember Carmine?
The reason I'm laughing. See, this tells you it's a good show. The Carmine made me laugh for 2 reasons. Because he would always bust out into, I went from rags to riches. Remember how he'd always bust out into singing that? That was the only thing he'd ever... And then there was an episode where I think it was Laverne's dad. He was trying to impress her about the great lyrics in this new song. My Baby Does the Hanky Panky, which is anyone who knows that song. Those are the only lyrics in the whole song. My Baby Does a Hanky Panky, over and over. And he starts singing it. And I was next to tears watching that. I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
Because you're an idiot.
I am. That's what I do. I do idiocy. All right. The Andy Griffith Show. The complete series on individual repackaged volumes. This is a very strange thing. Here's the deal. The original... I don't know what Paramount is thinking. I really don't. I'm trying to sort of figure out what their vibe is on this. They don't seem... They seem to know that they can monetize the Andy Griffith Show, but they don't seem to know how to monetize it. They originally released the whole series in slimline cases, in box sets with sleeves, and now they're releasing them all over again in flashy new designs where it looks like a postage stamp on the cover of each one. See how the season is like the postage?
Because it's like Americana or something.
They do this monochromatic thing of the various characters. We got Floyd and Aunt Bee and Andy and Barney and blah 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 blah. There's Opie.
And you were there, and you were there.
There's Gomer, and there's Andy again, and anyway, and Goober, who's Gomer's cousin. But here's the thing I got about this. They didn't need to do this. This is 8 seasons all told. They didn't have to do this. These are slimmer cases, obviously. They're all, it's more uniform, and everything is now easily compacted onto the shelf. But the problem is, they were starting to release these on Blu-ray. And they only got as far as the first season. And now it's sort of like, well, what are you doing to me now? I don't understand this. I just don't get it. So we got the first, and that was last year. That was May of last year. It was exactly a year ago that we got the first season out on Blu-ray. Couldn't you do us the favor of releasing the other remaining 7 seasons on Blu-ray first before you do a repackaged thing?
Maybe the first one didn't sell.
Very strange.
Maybe the first one didn't sell.
Well, that's been the problem with I Love Lucy. They were going to do I Love Lucy all on Blu-ray as well, and that didn't sell either. It's like, just do it. Don't release them in individual seasons. Release the whole thing. They don't do this correctly. Once people have purchased, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to segue. Okay, hold on. I'm segueing here, Mark, because this brings us to this next one. Jerry Anderson Collection, ongoing stuff, new releases all from Timeless. We've been waiting for this. The Thunderbirds, the complete series on Blu-ray. Nice slim set here, right? Isn't that beautiful? Thunderbirds on Blu-ray.
Much better way to release a complete series.
Bravo, Timeless. I love this show. I grew up on this. Used to watch it every morning before I'd go to school. It was fantastic. International Rescue. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Rockets rescuing kids. They'd send like a fleet of rocket ships to rescue a little boy who's like lost in a burning apartment complex. It's or he's like, or he can't find his dog and he's wandering around in a parking lot. Send 18 rocket ships to orbit the Earth to save the little boy. It's fantastic. I loved it. Made no sense, but it was great. Anyway, this is the ultimate in Jerry Anderson's Super Marionation. But here's my point. It's the whole series. Now, granted, it's not a hugely long series, and even when they released it on DVD, it was the complete series. But if you're going to release shows on Blu-ray, release the complete series. Don't ask people who have suffered through year after year after year of buying Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, or, God forbid, worse yet, Season 1, Part 1, Season 1, Part 2, Season 2, Part 1. Once you've done that round on DVD, you have television fatigue. You have shelf space evaporating. When the thing comes out on Blu-ray, you don't want to start to go through season by season by season all over again. If Paramount were smart, they'd release I Love Lucy, the complete series on Blu-ray. The Andy Griffith Show, the complete series on Blu-ray. Once you get to Blu-ray, people want the whole series. They don't want to go season by season again. Been there, done that. I'm done ranting.
I agree. The Rant Monkey is complete.
Rant Monkey's complete. So,
Ways Park and Recreation. It's a cult show. It's recently ended its run. It was never a huge hit, huh?
Patton Oswalt killed it when he did his whole Star Wars.
His Star Wars thing,
Star
brilliant.
Wars Marvel
Yes.
rant crossover.
Brilliant,
amazing.
And the
highlight of this show.
And the raw of that is on YouTube. You can see the whole thing.
It's fantastic.
Anyway, Parks and Recreation. It premiered in, I think it was 2009 or something like that, and it lasted for about 7 seasons, and it was never a huge hit. Although it was a cult hit, critics loved it. I like that in the last 2 seasons they brought in Rob Lowe and Adam Scott. They were good additions. So, if you like this show, you got to get this. Again, it's not on Blu-ray, which really makes me angry. I mean, come on, folks, just stop it. Just put it on Blu-ray. A lot of great celebrity guests over the years. Louis C.K. was there, and Andy Samberg was on it. It was a funny episode with Will Forte, who I'm usually not a huge fan of. I know Wade loves him. John Hamm was funny too. So anyway, there you go. Parks and Rec, full series. Got to get it if you love that show, and many people do. Also, we have the complete 3rd season, final season of The Newsroom. This is Aaron Sorkin's HBO show that never, never really.
It kind of feels like they were trying to get their claws into something, but they could never compete with the real news.
I know.
That's the problem that I kind of distilled this down to. It's like it would be a really compelling show if the real news weren't more sensational and more compelling.
I also, that's true. I also don't know how interested the public is in the moral and ethical inner workings of a Keith Olbermann type. It feels so inside baseball.
It's not the same as the West Wing. They thought that this would be the West Wing for
the people who would cover the West Wing.
People who cover the West Wing, but it's not the same.
No, it really isn't.
It's not the same.
And again, look, I lived in this world. I used to work for the man who inspired the character, Keith Olbermann. So I get it. I just think that this thing was too inside baseball. It was too preachy. It's again, Aaron Sorkin, he just takes his characters and puts opinions in their mouths, and the guy's just merciless. He's an amazing writer, and thank God he's around. But he's not the lightest on his feet. So this thing never really took off, and now it's over.
Starz had an original series that only lasted 6 episodes. It was half hour, and the mistake is I think that they tried to make this a comedy, and it should have been a drama. It's called Survivor's Remorse. It starts up again. I mean, it's not off the air. I think it's gonna. I don't know. It doesn't quite right. It doesn't work quite right. Work quite right. Jeez, there's a tongue twister.
You're stupid.
But anyway, there's a second season coming in August, and if based on these first few episodes, I don't know that I'm all that interested to see any more of it. It's basically about a kid who is becomes a professional basketball player, and it's suddenly the change in coming from very humble urban beginnings to bang, here's money and women and blah blah blah, and the whole you're suddenly pushed into that thing, that pro sports maelstrom, and we all know about that. We see professional athletes talk about that. We hear it all the time. So I don't know that that's sort of pulling the covers off of something that isn't sort of common knowledge. But the way it's played, the whole half-hour format doesn't feel. It feels like they kind of misdirected their focus a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe they'll fix it. Maybe they'll set it up. But anyway, Survivor's Remorse. 2.5 Man, the complete 12th and final season. Of course, without Charlie, they went and kind of shoved Ashton Kutcher into this thing, and it's weird seeing him in a sitcom again because you kind of figured once he had moved out of the 70s show that it was all over and he was a feature guy, and now he's like back to TV. I don't know. It misses Charlie. I got to tell you, that whole blow up and then losing him doesn't really work. So anyway, this show goes out with a whimper, not a bang. And then also here we've got season 1 of a thing called Country Bucks, which is an A&E reality show. And I have to tell you, I'm really tired of the reality shows about here's a bunch of guys who are just hardcore redneck truck driving. It's like every single one of those reality shows that deals with some kind of hardcore Midwestern or Middle American country conservative country music listening Christian guy. It's like Duck Dynasty just started a whole subgenre, and they're not as interesting. Country Bucks doesn't really work. It's these are just about guys who own a great big giant ranch and some hunting gear, and they're not the next Duck Dynasty. Hate to tell you.
You know what? Between them and the Duggars, wait about 5 years, and all these guys on this show will turn out to be gay.
And Honey Boo Boo, my goodness, she's that mom now. Didn't she say she was bisexual?
Yeah,
which made me think, what?
Awesome.
You're even sexual? Because I didn't even think that she. I mean, I realized she had a daughter, but it never dawned on me that she actually needed another entity to produce that daughter. I thought there was some kind of asexual reproduction thing going on.
She had to have sexual relations with a man.
I'm kind of grossed out all of a sudden.
Yeah, as well you should be.
Icky. Gross. Nasty. Let's see what else we got here.
We have Gunslingers season 1.
Yeah, go with that.
The Gunslingers, what I like about the show, because as listeners know, I did have, it's been a while, but I did have my little my little tryst with the Wild West. I read a lot about Wyatt Earp and a lot about the Arizona and the Arizona territories in the 1860s and 70s and 80s. I did like that stuff. So I like the fact that there's a certain amount of historical authenticity to Gunslingers season 1. I like the fact that you learn about all the real people who were involved. The reenactments are good. The expert commentary is good. There's lots of little-known facts. So, this is good. Disc 1 is all about Tombstone Vendetta, Jesse James, Billy the Kid. Disc 2 is all about Wild Bill Hickok and John Wesley Hardin and Tom Horn. And so I do like this show, actually. I have to say, I don't know that anyone actually watched this show or cares about it, or if there'll even be a season 2. But from the American Heroes channel, which is a channel I'd never heard of until I checked out this disc.
So many channels that just...
Gunslingers.
I can't keep up with them.
Season 1. I liked it.
All right. Rock on. Bonanza. Man, this show ran forever. This was, there'll never be another show like Bonanza. You know that.
Thank God.
It will.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Bonanza was like number one. The number of people who would watch Bonanza on a Sunday night back in 66 or 7 or whatever it was, it was phenomenal. You will never again, given the way that television and the audience is fragmented, you will never again capture that many millions of people, that many millions of pairs of eyes, or that percentage of the population on a single night ever again to all simultaneously watch the same dramatic television show. It'll never happen again.
Which is fine as long as that show is not Bonanza. Because that show, I never got into
That's
Bonanza. Never got into it.
Really?
Nope.
You had all these
Didn't
sons
get
from
it.
different wives, and the wives all died.
I knew nothing about that.
Wouldn't you think? Now, that's the reason he never got married again on the show. He'd there'd occasionally be a
Wow.
woman, but they'd look at him and they'd go, let me get this straight. These kids are all half-brothers, each different moms, and each one of them died. You, my friend, are like a curse.
Me, personally?
This is the Lauren Green.
Got it.
Ben Cartwright.
Don't get it.
The official 8th season in a value pack. They are figuring this out now, where you get both halves of the 8th season all together in beautifully restored, pristine video. And these things are really ripe, I think, for Blu-ray. They still haven't gotten around to. I mean, this ran for. I mean, we're not even halfway through this show's run now. Anyway, the show ran forever, and this is the 8th season. They're slowly trucking their way through, and eventually they'll get around to doing them on Blu-ray. And I only hope, as per my earlier rant, that they do the complete Bonanza on Blu-ray, even if the thing costs like $400. Just get the complete thing out there. But they do a lovely job of it, and they're the Cartwrights. Haas and little Joe and all the rest of them.
Wade, Rizzoli and Islands is one of those just horrible TNT shows that, like USA has its thing, Burn Notice, and there's all sun-bleached,
they got
handsome
their
detective
style.
guys.
They got their style.
Rizzoli and Isles is one of those horrible shows that's just it's just terrible. The complete 5th season is now on DVD, and of course it stars the Jane, whatever her name is, the other girl, Angie Harmon and Sasha
I like
Alexander.
Angie Harmon.
Huh?
I like Angie Harmon.
Yeah, she's beautiful. Anyway, 18 episodes here. Just, she's the detective and she's the medical examiner, and they crack crimes. It's based on a series of novels, which I guess people read, at least enough to justify a TV show. I just think this thing is silly. It's just totally generic. All that stuff's generic. You know what's generic, too, is Pretty Little Liars. Pretty Little Liars from ABC Family. This is one of those shows where, it's just a bunch of, hot 20-something brunettes, walking around their little hometown. And, and in this season, which the 5th season, which, of course, I didn't watch all of because I ain't watching the show for you guys. I'm sorry. I make a lot of sacrifices for this show, but that does not include the 5th season of Pretty Little Liars. But... Anyway, there's a new corpse in town, and where'd that come from? And it's Allison has a lot to do with this episode. She's one of the hotter ones in the cast. And there you go. So it's a lot of special features, which is nice for featurettes. 25 episodes. If deleted scenes. If you like this crap, then go for it. Pretty Little Liars, season 5.
All right, I'm going to go through some really cool classic TV here, Mark. You familiar with The Bold Ones?
I am not.
You're not, huh? You're not.
I am not.
All right, The Bold Ones, The Senator, was this television series that starred Hal Holbrook.
Hal Holbrook?
Hal Holbrook.
Not Hal Holbrook. Hal Holbrook.
Well, Hal Holbrook, same thing. That's my Southern California accent.
You got your mind.
Anyway, this is from 1970, and this thing was really short-lived. They only got about 10 episodes out of this thing, but it's what an amazing actor. He's just one of those guys. He just always kills it. I always think about he's the only thing in the Star Chamber that just magnetized.
I like that movie.
I did too, but he was the thing that just made it real, right?
No way. I like Michael Douglas.
Yeah, he's good, but he's fine. But when Holbrook shows up, you just go, wow. It just suddenly he has that speech. He has that speech, that vigilante speech, where he almost sells you, and you're like, "You're right. I'm on board. Where do I get my gun? Wait a minute. What's wrong with me?"
You got your mind.
Anyhow, Really, really interesting show. Essentially, he plays. I mean, look, he's a senator, just like in the title, and he won an Emmy for this thing. And it probably is more insightful about the political system now than it was then, to be honest. Really, just it does a really interesting job. It's a lot like in some respects, like the Altman thing, the Altman show about
Tanner 88.
Tanner, thank you. It's got similar kind of a vibe, but I really like it. There's a new interview with Hal Holbrook, and a Dick Cavett show from 1971, and then an anti-drug PSA that he did. Those are the extras. But this is also from Timeless. Great get, a show that just totally evaporated, and despite winning an Emmy, but it's nice to have it out again. We also have the second season of Spencer for Hire, with the late Robert Urich. This was a fun show. No extras on this. This is from Warner Brothers. Fun cop show. There just aren't fun cop shows on anymore. You notice that? We've lost the whole detective thing. It went from the 50s straight on into the 80s, kind of started dying out in the 90s. We're done now. True Detective doesn't count. That's like gritty and tough. We don't have any. There's no more Magnum P.I., Rockford Files, Spencer for Hire, Vegas. That whole detective...
Because they're cheesy now.
Beretta,
they're cheesy.
Hawaiian Eye.
Starsky and Hutch.
It's like, where are my detective shows?
Cheesy.
I want my detective
It's
show.
Like, those are like for kids now.
I
pretty
want
much.
that back. I want that back. I want my PI show. That's what I want. I want my PI show.
Anyway,
we also have Facts of Life season 6, which I saw several episodes in the studio audience of this.
You take the good.
Yep.
You
take
take
the good,
the bad.
take the bad. I did indeed. I sat in the studio audience for several episodes of this when I was in somewhere. Not gonna date myself too much more. But anyway.
I try to get into the studio audience of All in the Family once.
Oh wow, that's really dating.
I was too young. My parents really wanted to see a taping. It was at CBS Television City.
The worst thing.
They wouldn't let me in. I was too young.
I'm going to date myself. So when I was in high school, we didn't have any money to go to see movies. But as soon as one of us could drive, we just pile into the car. We drive it. Literally, this is the art of doing this. Anyway, season 6, Facts of Life. It's getting a little thin, but it's still fun. And then Heart to Heart, the final season. God, I love this show. I really did. Speaking of PI shows, I love. It's just they're hot, they're sexy, they're married, they're rich, and they solve crimes. It was great. It was a great thing. Created by what's his name? Who Sidney Sheldon, who I Dream of Jeannie created. I Dream of Jeannie. As well.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was, this is what we used to do.
What?
Well, this is what we used to do. So when I was in high school, we'd pile in the car. You know a lot of the people that I would do this with. You've met them. Scary group of friends that I had back then, still do. So we'd pile into somebody's car, like on a Saturday, right? And we'd go all over Hollywood. We'd go to the ABC place where all the ABC shows were, and then we'd go to the CBS place. We'd get the tickets there, and then we'd basically just load up on tickets for all that were of it, because it was like a plane. They distribute. It's free. They distribute as many tickets as they possibly can, because they figure we want to pack the studio audience, and a lot of people won't show up. So there's no limit to how many you can get. So 4 guys walk in, 5 guys walk in. They'll give each of you, 4 tickets. So we're good. We're rocking. So we just collect every sitcom, tickets for every sitcom that was taping anywhere in town for the next week or so. And sometimes game shows. We even went to see Solid Gold or Family Feud. We didn't care. We didn't have money to see movies, so we're going to go see something free. So we'll sit in any studio audience for any period of time as long as someone entertains us. Basically, that was the way it was. So we would do this pretty much all summer, just nonstop as much as we could. And the worst thing about it is that you're at the front of the line and you think you're going to get in, and then they truck in like a bunch of old people from some rest home, and then they fill up the studio audience, and you think they're not going to laugh as hard as I am. Do you think these people appreciate Three's Company? You don't like Three's Company as much as I do. I am Jack Ritter. I know the Regal Beagle. I know Chrissy. These people relate to Mr. Furley, or come on, stop.
You need help.
I know.
All right, Turbo was a DreamWorks animated film, which means that it's going to be incredibly average and not do that great.
Yeah.
But from Turbo came Turbo Fast. Now, Turbo Fast it's a Flash animated TV series. It premiered on Netflix. Pretty much, I think, the first kid show to premiere on Netflix.
Yeah.
right? It was a big deal at the time.
Pretty much.
These were 11-minute episodes, almost like classic Warner Brothers cartoons from back in the day. So there's over 9 hours of animated crap on this thing. You know, is this show good? Of course it's not good. It's 11 minutes long, and, you know, it's not as clever as like a Pixar film or even some of the other DreamWorks films. But the voice acting is good, because we all love Phil LaMarr. He's awesome. He's on this, too. And, of course, Ken Jeong, who we talked about last week, the guy from The Hangover, always hilarious. He's in this. So Turbo Fast, Season 1, not great, but still, if you want to put the tykes to bed, show them this. They'll be asleep in 5 minutes.
All right.
And also American Dad, Season 10. Not a big fan of American Dad. In fact, I'm not a fan of American Dad at all. Every time I try to watch this thing, although you know what, Wade, you'll like this. He's not in it this season, I don't think, but David Lynch is a voice on this show.
Oh, good.
David Lynch has been a voice.
Speaking of, we haven't talked about the fact that Twin Peaks is on again, as I predicted on the Facebook page. So that all sorted itself out. We're going to get twice as many episodes now.
Because they gave David 3 times as much money?
They basically met all of his demands, apparently. I mean, how do you not?
Nobody's going... I mean, he had them over a barrel.
Of course he did.
You know.
Of course he did. I mean, come on. Teen Wolf. Can't believe this became a TV show. From MTV... They turned it into a TV show. This is season 4. Really nothing all that remarkable. A few special features here. Gag reel and, you know, some featurette stuff, thing on some visual effects. It's, you know, it's kind of astonishing that this became a show, much less lasted 4 seasons, but I guess it's worth it for somebody. And then Rectify, which is on Sundance TV. This is its 2nd season. This thing's coming back for a 3rd season. I was not even really aware that they had original dramatic programming on Sundance TV. So this kind of comes as a surprise to me. But they got an interesting style, interesting vibe. This is from the people who produced Breaking Bad, and it's obviously not as good as Breaking Bad, but they've got a more limited budget, and it's going in an interesting direction. I'm not familiar with season 1, so had to do a little bit of catching up. But the idea, it's a pretty dark concept. It's about a guy who was previously sentenced to death. I won't tell you exactly why he was sentenced to death, but he's freed through DNA evidence from this whole horrible thing that had once happened to him, and that's the sort of the through line of this thing, and it's about, you know, it's about all these things of how you sort of secure your place in the world again, and all of how it impacts your relationships, and on and on and on. And of course, obviously, trying to unravel what really originally happened in the incident that nearly got him killed. Really interesting idea. Based on what I did not see in season 1, but can only infer. And based on what's happening in Season 2, it appears that this thing has a future as long as Sundance TV stays behind it. Hopefully they will. Really interesting concept. And then Justified. Can't believe this show finally ended. Complete final season. Feels like it just started. This really became a thing. Timothy Olyphant really secured his place as a major actor. Look for him to start doing some stuff in features, unless he lands some other big series and just becomes another go-to television guy. But the final season on Blu-ray and digital HD, that means ultraviolet, pretty smart. Special features on here include Hollywood to Harlan, and then some Blu-ray exclusives, deleted scenes, and some featurettes, and a thing with Adam Arkin on directing the show. The Emmy-winning Justified. Go figure. I never would have tapped that show for like a big Emmy winner.
And there you have it.
That's our television. That's our television. Mark, I'm going to give you a break for a moment. We've got a bunch of stuff from Megahertz. Megahertz does all the really cool foreign language television shows. And
you're going to talk about foreign language television before you talk about that whole stack there.
Real quickly, just to break it up, just to let you breathe.
Got it. Oh, so it's for me.
This is for you. I'm giving you a little break right now. And then we will pile into our enormous bunch of classic movies, because there's a lot of great classic movie stuff going on here. So let me launch into this. Let me start with these. Good Night, Darling, part of the International Mystery Line from Megahertz. This is Megahertz Networks, by the way. All of this stuff you can find out more from by going to mhznetworks.com. They are just really, really sharp. This is a Norwegian series based on a novel, Good Night, Darling. I'm not familiar with the novelist. I'm not familiar with any of it. Anyway, it's actually like a... I don't think it's like a series. It's not an ongoing thing. It's like a mini-series. And about 3 hours long, and really cool kind of, blackmail mystery. Feels very noirish. It's very smart. A little bit tweaked. Interesting characters. That's pretty sharp. The Salamander, also part of the International Mystery Line. Salamander is a Flemish show. Now, Flemish is, of course, the variant of Dutch that they speak in Belgium. So, Belgium, of course, a divided country language and culture-wise. You have the Flemish, i.e. Dutch-ish half, and then you have the French-speaking half. So, this is from the Flemish half of Belgium, and very obviously narrow market for that. But given how narrow that market is, it's a very, very smart, very smart story. Gets into all of the political machinations and the. It's really, there's a whole banking political conspiracy kind of thing that has to be unraveled. Pretty gritty, pretty smart, really well done, good production values. Salamander, that's definitely worth checking out. We've previously talked about The Bridge, otherwise known as Braun or Bron. This is season 2 in this very, very cool Swedish television show, and it deals with the bridge that takes you across Sweden to Denmark, and really a smart show. Continues to be very, very smart in the series 2. We've also got set 1 of Bukow and König. König with the 2 dots over it. This is a German show. I'm not quite as keen on this as I am on a lot of other stuff that they do in the various mystery lines from Megahertz. It's a buddy cop thing. It's fairly gritty, fairly smart, but somehow I never really quite get with the characters. I'm a little iffy on that one. Cenk Batu, Undercover Agent, is it's another German show, and the guy here is a detective who's of Turkish ancestry. Interesting if you're familiar with the certain cultural elements that this deals with. A lot of this is political, a lot of it is cultural. There's stuff that deals with, like episodes that deal with obviously the integration of Muslims in Germany. Feels a little bit inside baseball. It's good, but if you're not familiar with the context, it's not necessarily going to work for you. Also really quickly, the ongoing adventures of Don Matteo. They now have this in set 9 and set 10. He is a priest detective. There's a long, proud history of priest detectives in British television. And Italian television, obviously, is equally fond of priests who solve crimes. Don Matteo, Terence Hill, great actor. This thing's been going for 10 years now. Amazing. Sebastian Bergman, Dark Secrets. This is a Swedish language show, and like most Swedish television, it's pretty heavy, and it really is kind of carried by Rolf Lassgård, who incarnated the first performance of Wallander on television before it became a British show. Really good actor, and interesting character here, Sebastian Bergman. He's a sharp kind of profiler detective guy. And then lastly, easily my favorite of the whole thing, this is based on on work by a Finnish author, Matti Ronka, and it's called Look of a Killer. And this is forget about like who was the murderer guy on TV?
Hannibal.
No, the other one.
Rich Eisen.
No, yeah, but the who was it?
Brian Williams.
No, it wasn't. Dexter. Thank you. Forget about Dexter. Not interesting. Now, this isn't about a serial killer. This is about a guy who's a former KGB agent, And if you want to get inside what actually makes a murderous mind work, Look of a Killer is amazing. The psychology of this thing, the way it's written, the way it's directed, everything is just so interior and so subtle and so masterful, and it puts you right inside the just worst parts of that whole Russian mafioso KGB organized underworld crime thing, all the machinations of it. It's really, really an intense and very smart show. And obviously, it all connects back to Finland. And Finland is a really interesting place. I've never been, but I'm dying to go. And the more I see movies and TV shows from Finland, the more I want to go. So,
well, it's a land of Finns. If you go there, everybody has a Finn.
Not funny, not the least bit funny. But anyway, that's Look of a Killer, and those are our megahertz titles of the week. All right, Mark, it's time to start plowing through as we close out the show. We're going to talk about classic movies.
Oh, we have John Wayne on Blu-ray. Wade, you got to love it.
Love it.
But here's the thing, Wade. The reason why this is important, there's a reason why.
Yes.
Now, these of course, these aren't the best John Wayne movies, but it is, I believe, this is the Blu-ray premiere of one of the great John Wayne films, one of the great films, The Searchers.
Searchers has been out on Blu-ray before.
It has?
Yes, it has.
Why don't I have it?
But it's you probably haven't gone after it. But it came out in a big old splashy edition. There are some I forget. The ones here that are the premieres. The ones that premieres here. Cahill, United States Marshal, has never been on Blu-ray before, and the Train Robbers have never been on Blu-ray before. Port Apache, The Searchers, and Rio Bravo have.
Oh, you're right. Oh, you know what this is? This is the. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't have this.
Yeah.
Why do I not have this?
I don't know.
When did this come out?
That's your mistake.
It really is.
Your mistake, not mine.
Anyway, it has Fort
those
Apache, The Searchers, Rio Bravo, The Train Robbers, and Cahill, United States Marshal. Also got a couple documentaries. One about John Ford, the other about Ford and Wayne and The Searchers, narrated by John Milius, who was the perfect person to narrate that documentary. Some vintage featurettes, which I always love, and some commentaries and trailers. So there you go. John Wayne Westerns. Are these his 5 best Westerns? No.
No.
I mean,
The Searchers would probably be up there for a lot of people, but but it's a nice set. I mean, there's just so many John Wayne films. Someday somebody's just going to figure out how to do a gigantic John Wayne mega set with every studio cooperating, but for the time being, that's not happening.
Exactly. So there you go. What's next?
Next, I got a bunch of stuff from Kino, all part of their Studio Classics line, which is primarily stuff that gets mined from the 20th Century Fox and MGM libraries, all thrown onto Blu-ray, unless they are titles that they can only put out on DVD because Twilight Time has nabbed them for Blu-ray. So, that said, here's what we got on Blu-ray. The Onion Field.
Oh, great movie.
Fantastic, right?
Yep.
I mean, and the thing, people forget that Ted Danson that was like his big moment.
I know.
That's where he suddenly
So
just burst on the scene, alongside John Savage, James Woods, Ronnie Cox. Just fantastic. Maybe the best thing that Joseph Wambaugh ever wrote, and maybe the best film ever made from a Joseph Wambaugh novel. Really, just a great film. This film was just so legendary at the time, and it's still so powerful. Wambaugh co-wrote the screenplay. Harold Becker directed it. Maybe the best thing Harold Becker ever did. Frankly, that was kind of the pinnacle. Also, Brian Brown in FX, co-starring Brian Dennehy. This, I think, is the movie that inspired, in many respects, MacGyver. Would you agree?
MacGyver.
Would you agree?
Totally. Kidding me?
Yeah. It's about a special effects guy played by Brian Brown who would kind of come on the scene primarily because he married Rachel Ward, and they appeared together.
This movie was cool.
It was a cool movie. I mean, it doesn't date terribly well, but it's a cool movie, and he's a special effects guy.
It really doesn't, because there's the scene where there's some animatronic bear or something, and he.
It's an okay transfer. It's not great or anything. They've got an interview with Robert Mandel, who directed it, along with the trailer. That's all they have for extras, but it's fine. It's a nice little kind of throwback late to mid '80s movie. Special effects guy played by Brown, who deploys his special effects prowess to help the Justice Department. The Boys in the Band, totally forgotten Friedkin film, frankly, that is really worth rediscovering. This is based on an off-Broadway play, and was one of the very first films that dealt very frankly with openly gay men. This is 1970. Pretty radical film for that time, and kind of indicative of where Friedkin was as a filmmaker at that time. I mean, this was what he was doing. He was pushing buttons. So it's just a hop and a skip to go from here to The French Connection and The Exorcist and everything else. So he was
and cruising.
So he was really on the cusp. And this includes an audio commentary by Friedkin, and then the featurettes on the play and on the film. And then a featurette on the kind of the reunion after the fact. So Boys in the Band, really worth rediscovering. Not the best transfer, frankly. They could have done some more cleaning up, but still definitely worth rediscovering. And then we got a couple of Chuck Norris movies, both of which, well, let me start off by saying The Hero and the Terror is the one that you can kind of forget about. The Hero and the Terror is not great Chuck Norris. It's 1988. This is late-stage Chuck Norris. He's kind of, on fumes at this point. William Tannen, not a good director. The whole idea here is to bring down a serial killer. It really is not Chuck at his very, very best. However, Eye for an Eye is one of my all-time favorite Chuck Norris films. Yes, it's cheesy. Yes, when I watched it again, I could not believe that I once loved this film. I could not believe that I actually paid to see this film in theaters with my buddies and cheered Chuck on and thought that the fighting was really awesome. But as bad as the writing is, as bad as the directing is, as terrible as the action is staged, Christopher Lee is an awesome bad guy, and Professor Tanaka wearing his platform shoes rules. Professor Tanaka, if you don't know, is that great, big, huge, like sumo wrestler-looking guy who shows up in a lot of movies from the 1970s and 80s. And Professor Tanaka in this movie from 1981 is awesome. He's hilarious, and he has one of my all-time favorite lines in any movie ever, which goes like this. And this doesn't give anything away. He goes, "Your woman was very good." It's a wonderful line reading. That's all I can say. And then lastly, from the Kino line, there is The Land That Time Forgot, which is a perfect cheeseball movie to watch when Jurassic World comes out, because it's just ridiculous and completely silly. And there's from 1974. It's so silly. You can't believe people actually paid money to see this thing at the time. It is absolutely obnoxious and beyond ridiculous. And then lastly, just strictly on DVD, because they don't have the Blu-ray rights to it, Inherit the Wind, Spencer Tracy, Frederick March, and Gene Kelly.
All-time classic.
All-time classic. And then also Judgment at Nuremberg, another all-time classic. But they only have the DVD rights because Twilight Time has the Blu-rays.
Yes, Judgment at Nuremberg, by the way, starring William Shatner.
Yep.
More than anybody, William Shatner. She-Devil was Roseanne's movie debut. This
your best friend. You love her.
Yes.
You saw her every day for half your life.
No, not half my life, 2 years.
Oh.
Not every day,
but
most days.
It felt like every day for half your life.
It really did. Gotta be honest with you. Anyway, Roseanne plays she's a wife, much put upon wife. She's married to Ed Begley Jr., back when Ed Begley Jr. wasn't like Mr., like my car runs on canola oil guy.
I saw him at a restaurant about a month ago. Just over here.
Okay.
Just over here. The Lebanese place.
Yeah. You saw him at Carnival?
I saw him at Carnival. I was waiting for the takeout, and I'm just waiting for them to put the dinner together, and Begley and his wife walk on in and strike up a conversation with like 5 other people who are just sitting there waiting for a table.
I wonder if he lives in the area.
Yeah, he must. But it was amazing. He didn't walk in and go, "Oh, I'm a movie star," and walk out. No,
he's Ed Begley Jr. I mean,
he just started talking to everybody. He started talking to everybody. He was just like the most outgoing, gregarious guy in the world. Hi, how you doing? Happy to be here.
Okay. Anyway, Ed Begley Jr. plays Roseanne's wife, and he cheats on her, so she decides to make his life miserable, and also the woman that he cheated with, which is played by Meryl Streep. She-Devil's fun stuff. Meryl Streep and Roseanne Barr make a good team because Meryl Streep is Meryl Streep and Roseanne Barr is the opposite of Meryl Streep. One of them is one of the great actors of the 20th century and the 21st century, and the other is Roseanne Barr. So they make a good they make a good team. It's a fun little movie. Malice is a during the late 80s and early 90s, there was all sorts of these thrillers going on with Single White Female, and Malice was another one, and Fatal Attraction, and they just crank these things out. This one is one of the lesser ones, although it's really not that bad. It's a little weird though. It's Stars Alec Baldwin plays a surgeon who decides he's going to rent a room in a Victorian house owned by an old school classmate played by Bill Pullman and his wife played by Nicole Kidman. So what happens when these three people get into a house together? All sorts of crazy thriller stuff. It's a good cast, though. It's got Gwyneth Paltrow's in it. B.B. Newworth is in it from Cheers. Peter Gallagher. And it was shot by Gordon Willis, of course, so it looks great. Directed by Harold Becker, who we talked about a few minutes ago. So there you go. Malice is a cool little thriller from the mid-'90s, back in the day when they cranked these things out like popcorn.
Fantastic. Got a couple of special editions here that I am very happy about. One is Apollo 13, 20th Anniversary Edition. All new, restored. I don't know what needed to be restored, but they're calling it restored, and it looks gorgeous on Blu-ray. It also includes Ultraviolet. This is, as I said at the time, probably as good as a movie can be where you know the outcome. There's no mystery to it. There's very little suspense to it, but this thing got a gob of Oscar nominations, and it's just really well made. And Tom Hanks is great, and you know, everybody's great. The whole thing, it just hums. It's a beautifully made movie. It just isn't, you know, and it's got Ed Harris, right? You know, a little connective tissue there to the right stuff. It just, you know exactly what's going to happen. Lots of amazing extras on here. Everything mostly to do with all the historical stuff. You got two commentaries, one with Jim and Marilyn Lavelle, and the other with Ron Howard. It's pretty great. So it just doesn't come any better than that. There's also a conversation with Brian Grazer and Ron Howard. You know, the 20 years later thing. That I don't know that is all that instrumental. Ron Howard is always great in conversation. Brian Grazer, you know, he's got the spiky hair and the whole deal, and he's Brian Grazer. 1776 director's cut. I don't know how many people are eager for this, but I have been, because I absolutely love 1776. The whole idea of setting the founding of America to a musical struck a lot of people at the time as being possibly weird, but it was, you know what, this was a Broadway hit, and it's a really cool movie. And, you know, the guy who directed it, not known for anything fantastic other than this movie, Peter H. Hunt. But really, honestly, it's a fun movie, and the songs are great, and William Daniels has never been better. Blythe Danner pops in here, and you go, Blythe Danner? Ken Howard shows up, and you go, Ken Howard? Honestly, most people don't even know this movie exists. Check it out. It's fantastic. This is the director's cut, and it includes Ultraviolet, so you can take it on the road and show it to anybody that you want and just make them gasp at not knowing that they've ever heard of it, realizing they've never heard of this movie. Well, 1776, the fabulous Broadway musical, made into a film, the director's cut, there it is.
Oh, wait, we have a Blu-ray that contains two from Mickey Rourke. One is The Pope of Greenwich Village.
I love that movie.
The great film. Exactly.
I love that movie.
Exactly. They took my thumbs.
Oh
they took my thumbs. Burt Young's in this. And then Desperate Hours, which was Michael Cimino's second to last turn at the bat. Man. He did this, then he did with Year of the Dragon a few years later, and then now he's just a freak.
But you realize he does interviews now, and people are like, "Are you transitioning?" He's like, "What's wrong with you? Why would you think that?" Because of how you're. Never mind.
He looks nuts, man. He just looks nuts.
It's the funniest thing. That's a question he gets all the time.
Because he's nuts. He's out of his mind. I can't remember the conversation anymore. I said it on the show, but I remember I was sitting at a Starbucks.
I love women. I'm not. What makes you say that? And like, because you've looked at. Never mind.
I was sitting at a Starbucks on Larchmont, and I wound up talking to this guy who used to hang out with Michael Cimino, and he had some great stories because Cimino's just nuts. He's gay. He's not gay. He's transitioning. He's not. He's out of his mind. He's just crazy. Cimino's it's too bad too. Anyway, The Last Unicorn is this should be on Blu-ray, but it's not. Last Unicorn is kind of an overlooked animated film from 1982.
No, it is on Blu-ray.
Oh, it is on Blu-ray.
It is on Blu-ray.
Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, Angela Lansbury. And, you know...
I remember this when it came out.
No, you know what?
I went to see this.
What I liked about this movie is that even though it's The Last Unicorn, it's got some pretty intense moments, man. It's like, you know, fairy tales are intense and violent, and this one doesn't really... I mean, it's not R-rated, but it doesn't really shy away from that. So, yet it still has a lot of mystery and sweetness to it. It's underrated, but I do like it, The Last Unicorn. I do remember it. The animation style, not my favorite personally, but still, it's good stuff. Overlooked.
All right. 4 from Olive. I watched every single solitary second of all 4 of these, and I can't watch them enough. I love these movies. I love them passionately. I am thrilled that Olive got these and that they snatched them over from MGM because MGM was never going to do anything with these. Tell me if these titles mean anything to you, Mark. Hammer, Coffy, Friday Foster, and Foxy Brown.
Well, Coffy and Foxy Brown.
Of course. It's all blaxploitation.
Yes.
Did Fred produce some of these? I think
no. Well, Fred didn't produce Coffy.
I think wishes. Fred produced some of these. I can't remember. I saw
him.
Yeah.
I saw Fred at a funeral a couple weeks ago, and Fred Weintraub, by the way, is an old friend I've known the family since high school. And Fred Weintraub produced Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
As well as High Road to China and Tom Horn with Steve McQueen
and The Big Brawl with Jackie Chan.
Big Brawl. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Fred looks terrible. He's frail. He's in a wheelchair.
That's terrible.
It's like, and Fred was he's such a big man, such a big presence,
larger than life guy.
large man, larger than life man, and to see him brought down by age is just really sad.
Well, he produced a lot of cool blaxploitation stuff at the time. None of these, I guess, but I love. Look, first of all, Fred Williamson earned the nickname the Hammer based on the movie Hammer. These are all blaxploitation era films. The 3 here, obviously, that stand out apart from Hammer are Friday Foster, Coffy, and Foxy Brown, because Pam Grier is just amazing. And Pam Grier was like one of the first, maybe the first American female action star, and she did it as a black woman at a time when these films were kind of marginalized and really only distributed in black communities. So Pam Grier just kills it in these movies. She's wonderful. They really hold up. They're a little bit stylistically, more than a little bit. They're still very much of the 70s, but it's not objectionable. You just feel like you're taking a trip back in time, and it's great. She wields a gun, and she's just got the style and the afro and the hair and the whole thing. She's fantastic. So I can't recommend these enough. Friday Foster also stars Yaphet Kotto, who just is one of my all-time favorites. Coffy, Foxy Brown, they're the best. And then from the sublime to the intentionally ridiculous, Tom and Jerry, the Gene Deitch collection. This is, Tom and Jerry went through a lot of different incarnations over the years, and every animator who ever touched this put his completely unique spin on it. And Gene Deitch did a number of these, and they have remastered all of them. And they're wonderful. I don't, for the life of me, know why they didn't do this on Blu-ray, but they're absolutely wonderful to have. So I would get them at least now until they figure out that there's a Blu-ray market for them. The shorts included here are Switchin' Kitten, Down and Outing, It's a Greek Meow, High Stakes, Steaks, Mouse into Space, Landing Stripling, Calypso Cat, Dickie Mo.
Are you really reading every single title?
Okay, fine. I won't do it.
Who knows what the titles are?
Because some people really know these things.
No, they don't know these things.
Anyway, Tom and Jerry, the newly remastered Gene Deitch collection. Fantastic. Good stuff.
Wait, on Blu-ray we have The Golden Year, 5 classics from 1939. This is from the good folks at Warner Brothers, which means that it's really only the movies that they have the rights to. Now, that's not to say, by the way, as you know, 1939 is considered, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's considered like the best year ever in the history of film.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was. I mean, the 30th best movie that year is better than like almost any other movie ever made.
Now, Warner Brothers packages 5 of these together. It's almost interesting it's a more interesting exercise to discuss what is not on this, but it does have Dark Victory, Bette Davis, Dodge City, Gone with the Wind, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Ninotchka. Of course, it does not have, let's say, The Wizard of Oz, or Stagecoach, or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Wuthering Heights, but still, it's 5 good movies. I mean, look, Dark Victory's great. Gone with the Wind, of course. Ninotchka's great. Greta Garbo, come on, folks. Greta Garbo in a comedy, gotta love that. Dodge City, probably the least of the bunch. Errol Flynn, and then Hunchback, which is great. So there you go. It's really not a bad collection.
And finally, we're going to wrap things out with a with some DVD MOD, some manufacturer-on-demand DVD-R titles, but starting with a Blu-ray, another Blu-ray from the Warner Archive collection, and then I'll get into the rest of the DVD-R stuff from the Warner Archive collection. But this one is such a cool little weird time capsule gem. Thank your lucky stars. If you know anything about Hollywood during World War II, there were a lot of these kinds of potpourri things where various studios would just dig up a bunch of stars that they had under contract, and they do kind of a, not like an overtly war bond money raising endeavor, but it was sort of like, it was showing off your talent. Right? It was sometimes they were things that were specifically for raising money for war bonds or whatever. But most of the time it was just like, hey, here's who we are. We're Warner Brothers, and we have these people under contract, and this is our brand. And Thank Your Lucky Stars has just about everybody that Warner Brothers had under contract at the time. It's unbelievable. Humphrey Bogart, Eddie Cantor, Bette Davis, Olivia de Havilland, Errol Flynn, John Garfield, Joan Leslie, Ida Lupino, Dennis Morgan, Ann Sheridan, Dinah Shore, and Alexa Smith. That's amazing. And then you even have people who show up who are not necessarily under contract, but who are just sort of, along for the ride. Spike Jonze and the City Slickers perform in the movie. Alan Hale, father of the skipper, Alan Hale, who played Little John in the original Adventures of Robin Hood, shows up here. I mean, it's just amazing. Tons of musical numbers, lots of fun. The story, don't worry about it. It's just kind of a backstage musical thing. There's nothing much here, but it's really a lot of fun, and just amazing the people that show up in this thing. So this is just fantastic. It's a real cool time capsule. Then you also have from the regular Warner Archive collection a few things here that are interesting in themselves as well. The Rowan and Martin, around the time that they were right after they did Laugh-In, they actually tried to make a transition to movies and did this weird kind of like a spoof of the Maltese Falcon called the Maltese Bippy. And Bippy, of course, is a word that showed up on Laugh-In, so it was a word that had a certain pop culture vernacular at the time. But you know what? They went and got a good director, Norman Panama, who did tons of Jerry Lewis and other cool comedies at the time. And it's a little bit dated and a little bit doesn't you don't quite get some of the references, but Julie Newmar and a lot of other great people show up. And then we also have The Secret Partner with Stuart Granger and Haya Hararit, which is who was in Ben-Hur. Remember, she was the sister in Ben-Hur. That's a kind of a cool murder mystery thing. And then Guilty by Suspicion with Robert De Niro, which was directed by Irwin Winkler after he transitioned to directing. This is a not great but still interesting drama set during the Blacklist era. Could have been better, but it's fair enough. And then I can't possibly say anything bad about Her Alibi with Tom Selleck and Paulina Porizkova, because a good friend of mine wrote this, and I think this is a really fun and incredibly underrated film from the era. This was Tom Hanks trying to sort of keep his feature career moving in the right direction. Directed by Bruce Beresford, of course, one of the only to date the only guy who directed a Best Picture without even being nominated, and I think it's really cool. So my good friend Charlie Peters wrote it. Charlie also recently wrote the Morgan Freeman, Diane Keaton thing.
Star Wars?
5 Floors Up. And he is a veteran writer, and he's a really sharp guy. So big shout out to him. And you know what? This is a wonderful little kind of comedy, mystery, romance. Tom Selleck, Paulina Porizkova, she was all the rage. Remember, she was doing all the bikini stuff, all the bathing suit stuff on Sports Illustrated at the time. She was a big deal.
She was delicious.
She was a big deal, right?
It was a big deal. Then she married the guy from the Cars.
Oh, she did, didn't she? Rick Ocasek.
Yes.
She did. I totally forgot about that. I bet they have kids who are like graduating from college this year now.
Exactly.
Holy cow.
All right, Wade, what are we doing?
We're done. That's it. We're off.
What?
We're done. So we will be back next week, and because Mark is going to be on vacation, it's going to be a little bit of a late show next week, but we'll
I'm going to Memphis. I've never been to Memphis before.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you very much.
We'll knock a show out when you're back.
You know it.
All right, man.
Bye.
Later.